There's a whole bunch of things happening that make me wonder, like, well, how important is the power of the purse when a department
extremely
can just, we've decided we're spending an extra $20 million you didn't approve. Like,
not we, the police department
right.
has made that decision, right? And I think this is an underlying theme within the city that is certainly worth conversation in public. And so I'm glad you asked about it, right?
We're rolling.
Calling out tap people. This is a real thing. Real thing.
None of you have the balls to stop this. Stop this.
I've got plenty of time. I have nothing else going on today.
We're in the Wedge neighborhood right now.
We are back on the Wedge Live podcast. After a little bit of a hiatus, I was exhausted by this election year, so I have taken pretty close to a month off, and we're fortunate to be joined by Minneapolis City Council Vice President Aisha Chughtai, who is also probably very exhausted this time of year as the Budget Committee Chair. Thanks for joining us during this very hectic time of year for you.
Absolutely. Thank you. I'm really excited to be here today to talk about my favorite topic, the city budget.
It's the most wonderful time of the year. It's the happiest season of all.
Is it the happiest season of all for you?
It's the happiest season of all. It always means the year is almost done, and that is something to celebrate.
Yeah. So towards the end of the election year, there was a documentary that featured us riding a cargo bike down Hennepin Avenue.
Yep.
And the narrator said something like, "Oh, this looks sweet and wholesome, but under the surface, there's something more menacing." And
it's like you're not your grandmother's Democrat or whatever.
This might look like the Gen X version of kissing babies and sampling pie at the county fair.
Thank you so much.
City Council Vice President Aisha Chughtai is stumping for re-election, riding in a cargo bike for a podcast interview.
Hi.
Chughtai might talk the talk of a young Democrat, but Aisha Chughtai is not your grandmother's Democrat. Chughtai belongs to the Democratic Socialists of America.
I enjoyed that. I haven't seen you since the end of the election, so I'm catching up on old anecdotes here.
That's right.
Oh
my God.
My first question about the budget is, are budgets real? Because we learned on Friday during that markup session, MPD overspent their budget by $20 million. And a very technical question, like, where does that money come from when one department overspends by $20 million? Like, does another part of the city shortchange by $20 million? Is there like a bank account that they pull that from? Where does that come from?
Yeah, so it comes out of what we call fund balance, which is effectively the city's checking account. So when we set the annual budget, that's where all the money is coming out of, right? Everything, that's the whole pie, and different pieces of the pie come out. So when a department overspends their budget, in particular by this significant an amount, it comes out of the city's checking account, which effectively does negatively impact everybody else in the city. In this case, this type of overspending is going to put the city's financial health in jeopardy and the city's bond rating in jeopardy, which has a negative impact on all taxpayers.
Do you know, like, have other departments had to cut back because of this overspending? Like, when do you find out, and like, what are the practical implications? Were there any for the city this year?
I found out when the third quarter financial status report was being prepared, and I found out from the budget director. We're going to receive a presentation this afternoon where we'll discuss in more detail what the impact is going to be. Ultimately, what this is going to do is it decreases the amount of flexibility we have to be able to find resources if a major federal grant falls through or we don't receive it. We know for a fact that is a factor with the emergency management department as an example, because they won't be receiving the types of resources they have historically from FEMA. And so the other places we have to backfill for that are the cash balance, and it's been plummeted.
There's a whole bunch of things happening that make me wonder, like, well, how important is the power of the purse when a department
Extremely
can just, we've decided we're spending an extra $20 million you didn't approve. Like,
not we, the police department
right.
has made that decision, right? And I think this is an underlying theme within the city that is certainly worth conversation in public. And so I'm glad you asked about it, right? Like the rules, right, as they exist, right? Like we approve a budget, and that's how much money you have to spend in that upcoming year. That department directors have to be held accountable to their budgets. We learn over and over in different ways that the rules don't really apply to the police department, because ultimately, when they break them, they are not held to account by their boss.
I found it, so this Mayor Frey wrote a thing in the Star Tribune on Friday, and I was surprised there was nothing about the police budget. It wasn't like this city council is threatening to cut the wellness and training center that I want to build, or they've cut the police budget in this way. It was entirely focused on the size of the mayor's office staff and the budget amendments that he says would cut it by half, is how he's characterizing it. I have audio from him Sunday on WCCO talking to Esme Murphy that I'm going to play for you. It's about a minute long.
They're discussing a budget proposal. The council wants to cut your staff in half, and I know you're not happy about it.
Well, I'm really looking forward to this new council taking office. The voters spoke loud and clear. What they said is they wanted collaboration. They wanted people to love their city more than their ideology, and they were tired with this divisive strain of politics. Sadly, it appears that some on the present city council, before the new one gets sworn in, are intent on causing this division, because the bottom line is it's mean-spirited. It is mean-spirited to cut a already very small office. They don't need to do that. We have bent over backwards to compromise. We've provided millions of dollars of funding to some of the programs that these council members want to support and want to carry out. The only reason to cut our staff is to, I guess, get back at us for winning the election. Now, we're not doing this to them. I would not advise cutting council members' staff at this point. These are people that we need to, for instance, respond to media inquiries like this one.
Of which you're...
So are you being mean? Is this mean-spiritedness?
No, absolutely not. I think this clip that you played for me, along with the mayor's op-ed in the Star Tribune, caught me by. I think I was surprised by the content of what he's talking about. Right, in the spirit of collaboration, in the spirit of wanting to work together to achieve a budget that is reflective of our values as closely as possible. What I heard from council members was that we wanted to try in good faith to negotiate with the administration. We did that, and we achieved a close to a deal, right? That included the council returning all of the mayor's staff that they had identified, in addition to three other FTEs, right? So a total of 11 FTEs was where the council was taking from, and we returned all but to in the end. And at that point, the mayor decided that those two positions were so important to him that he didn't want to continue to find common ground, and ultimately then walked away from the table, and then we saw this op-ed come out. So I think it's unfair to say the council was not willing to give him back all the staff from his office, because we were.
So is it 15? Is 15 the number that he has in his office, or is it 11?
I believe it's like 15 or 16, and 8 of those were identified. And let me just tell you a little bit more about why these positions were identified from the mayor's office, and then the 3 additional positions from within the administration at the highest levels. Under the new government structure, the entire administration is organized to report solely to the mayor. Everybody reports up to the mayor. In the previous government structure, it did make sense for the mayor to have his own policy aides, his own communication staff, because departments were reporting to both the mayor and the council. So, as an example, in this policy team, there are people whose job it is to own the housing policy portfolio or the climate policy portfolio. Well, it's the council's strong belief that the people that should be owning that work on behalf of the mayor are department directors. The number one housing policy advisor to the mayor should be the community planning and economic development director. The number one advisor to the mayor on climate issues should be the sustainability director organized within the health department. The additional positions that we're talking about are people that are part of the leadership of the administration, and we believe there are far too many redundancies at the top, and this is a tough budget year. So in order to not impact any frontline services, the only places where council members wanted to identify permanent reductions of staff was all the way at the top.
So since the restructuring of the government in 2021, there's been a lot of talk about expanding, whether it's the community safety commissioner role is new and was added. And you talk about how the mayor has gained control of the executive departments, their leadership and staff. And we have not reevaluated at all what staffing in the mayor's office looked like. We've talked a lot about why the city council losing sway over department staff has affected them legislatively and their ability to whether it's crafting ordinances or during budget time, having people who will be straight with you about the budget. That was a big issue last year. And so there's been a need to grow the legislative branch. It always felt like a paradox to me after the government structure that Mayor Frey almost immediately was talking about how, well, I'm going to need all this additional staff to manage the larger executive branch that I'm getting. And also it was clear to me that the city council was going to need to grow because they had all of that capacity taken from them. I don't know why the new government structure that was advertised as so efficient, it was supposed to be so much more efficient, has necessitated growing in all areas, even the part of the city enterprise that grow in capacity.
Yeah, I mean, this is something I talked about, I think, during the markup process in the last budget around this time last year. I heard loud and clear from voters ultimately that in 2021 that they didn't want that 14 bosses, right? That was the predominant narrative that in support of passing ballot question 1. So we didn't want 14 bosses, we wanted 1, right? And we consolidated the administration in that way. And yet we have added so many positions at the top that are layers of bureaucracy in between frontline employees and even department directors and the mayor. So we threw out 14 bosses and replaced them with 26 bureaucrats or something,
Yeah. So the charge that if your guy had won, you supported Omar Fateh for mayor. If he had won, you would not be doing this. You would not be cutting the mayor's office staff. How do you feel about that charge?
I mean, I find it to be offensive, right? I know that the conversations among the council and in public, as the mayor's office has come to present their budget over the last 4 years I've been here, there have been questions raised about, the need for organizing the mayor's office the way it is right now. And, I can say with confidence that the discussions with council members, with the authors in particular that brought forward the amendments, taking from the mayor's office staff began long before the election, and were serious parts of the discussion long before the election. This has nothing to do with politics. This has to do with what is in the best interest of our city.
So there's an amendment also coming up today, Monday, as we record this, to increase, I don't know if it's necessarily an amendment, I don't know what it's called, to increase the mayor's pay from about $141,000, what it is currently, to $187,000, about an increase of $46,000. And seems, I don't know, there's evidence that that's about where a mayor of Minneapolis should be paid. You could argue that the mayor as an office is underpaid. Do you support increasing the mayor's pay?
I plan to vote in support of this. Exactly as you point out, there's been an extensive study around the compensation of elected officials in Minneapolis that found that the mayor is in fact underpaid. And, I plan to support this because the office of the mayor is underpaid. And I think this really speaks to the assertion or the mayor's hypothesis, or he's asserting that the council is taking positions out of his office because of some sort of political motivation. If that were true, I certainly wouldn't be supporting an increase to his compensation, right?
Mm-hmm. So the non-fatal shooting task force, has that been taken up yet? Was that one of the ones that passed on Friday, or is that still to come? I forget.
That was taken up on Friday, and I believe that was approved. Yes, that one was approved.
Okay. So what is your power to actually allocate funding to a specific thing within MPD? Because it's always been my understanding, it's the reason that the horse police never go away, things like that, is that the mayor and the chief can, within that MPD budget, my understanding is they could spend it on whatever they want. So is that true? Is my understanding right?
Yes, and it is true that we can allocate specific money. We can earmark money within a department's budget. We can move money around within that department's budget. And then once the first of the year hits and the department has access to that budget, they can move money around within it to best meet their deliverable outcomes as defined by the mayor. I'm going to be authoring I am authoring a financial policy change that hopefully will be taken up today, perhaps tomorrow. It's the very last amendment in the packet that establishes some budgetary controls. And one of the things that's addressed by it is council dedicated spending and making sure that we are putting some guardrails around this, because this is a problem we have seen come up year after year in my time on the council, where we'll work really hard to pass a budget amendment, and then as the year goes on, it just kind of sits there and goes unspent, right? Uptown Safety Ambassadors is the prime example of something like this. The Mounted Patrol Unit is an excellent example of this. So we need to build in some controls to have some guardrails around and some accountability around how we are setting the budget.
Katie Cashman was pissed on Friday talking about a crime prevention specialist in the 5th Precinct in relation to an amendment from Veto and Rainville, who wanted to add one in the, I believe, 1st and 4th precincts. She asked the community
Second, yeah.
safety commissioner, you going to implement this? You actually going to hire these crime prevention specialists? And when he said yes, she's like, well, what about last year when Chughtai and I we funded a crime prevention specialist in the 5th precinct where crime has actually gone up, unlike these other precincts.
My question for you, Commissioner, is if this budget amendment passes, if you will implement it and hire new crime prevention specialists in the 1st and 4th precincts.
It would be our intent to hire for these 2 positions.
Which precinct has had the largest increase in crime in the last few years? Am I correct in saying that it's the 5th precinct?
I don't have that number. I'm sorry, Chair, through the chair. I don't have that number right here.
Last budget cycle, we allocated funding to hire a second crime prevention specialist in the 5th precinct, and that person was never hired. And in fact, the hours of the 5th precinct crime prevention specialists were reduced. Can you explain why that decision was made?
In the specific details of how that decision was made, I don't remember right now.
And what happened to that? You're going to implement this, but not the one we did. She was so mad about that. That's another example of.
And she is correct to be. I'm furious about that as well, right? Like that was an amendment that Councilmember Cashman and I brought forward because, as you point out, right, the one precinct over the last 5 years where we've seen a steady increase in crime instead of the decrease that we're seeing in the other precincts is the 5th police precinct, which all of Ward 10 is within the 5th precinct. It's the southwestern quadrant of the city, essentially. And you know, we have seen the administration not hire an additional crime prevention specialist. That's been the source of a lot of frustration within the community. And so I think that's where you saw her remarks and her questioning come up. And I think she's completely justified in it.
So I assume everyone, including the mayor and the chief, want to solve more violent crimes. Yeah, I don't think anyone's.
Yes, I think we all want a safer city. Mm-hmm. Yes,
and I believe the argument from MPD on the non-fatal shooting task force thing specifically is that they don't have the staffing currently for this to be like a viable thing yet. I believe that's the argument they're making. Let me know if you're hearing differently.
I think so. I mean, there's like. Sort of. Yes.
Okay. And so why not, in your position and as council members, trust the chief to say, okay, now is the time for us to do this thing that has been successful in St. Paul and in other cities, this non-fatal shooting task force. Who are you as the city council to judge when we should do this? I'm the chief. I know best. Why should the council make this call?
The city council is the closest representatives to residents in Minneapolis in our government system. We carry the voices of our residents, the needs of our residents, and the work that we do. And over, the impact of gun violence is one of the top things that we hear from our constituents across the board, right? Across wards, geographies, whatever it may be. And the need to have a task force like this, which has been incredibly successful in St. Paul, so that our residents too can see meaningful progress made towards addressing gun violence in our communities, I think is well within our right and the responsible thing to be doing right now in response to what we're hearing from our constituents.
So this training and wellness center, I think it was $5.5 million that you pulled from that in a budget amendment
for this year. Yeah,
I was made uncomfortable by the city attorney. Like I think maybe it's a good idea. I have an open mind. I don't know. Maybe we do.
I have an open mind too.
Maybe we do need this training and wellness center. But I wasn't buying the city attorney saying that it's mandated by the state. The pressure felt it was too much. Like it felt political to me.
I think that's there are sections of the settlement agreement that do require like an assessment of all facilities and a requirement on the city to provide adequate training facility and invest in officer wellness. The council has invested in officer wellness. There's a multi-million-dollar contract to give direct resources to officers for mental wellness. In addition to that, the council has said, I think it was in the discussion on this item that council members who supported it brought up, right? Bring us a proposal that's more reasonable. Bring us bring us along in this process. Brief us on something that we can support. Right? We're not saying no to a facility altogether. We're saying no to this proposal that you've brought forward. Go back and try again.
So with something like George Floyd Square, like the city put a bunch of money in. And like all the news stories have been like, well, the clock is ticking and like the money that's spent on this goes up and up and up as long as it gets delayed. Is there an element of getting you to allocate a little bit of money to a thing and then talk about how it's delayed and how costs are going up? Like it feels like we get started down a path and then we stop a lot of times. And a lot is made of the delay and why aren't we pursuing this? Is it better to just... let's not start anything until we're sure we're going to see it through the end? Until we're clear.
Exactly. Yep. Exactly.
Okay.
Once you start on a thing, right, it's actually far more, it takes more time. It's more costly to go back and set a different course. And we're saying, let's set the course that we have consensus on.
Okay. Well, I feel like people should feel relieved that we're not going to start a thing and go halfway and then decide to have a bunch of fights over it in the middle. Are you worried about a veto?
The mayor has made clear that the veto pen is very much so on the table right now. And, ultimately, if based on the concessions that this council has made so far, the COO herself stated on the record, we have achieved agreement on 76% of the amendments. And right now, the rub comes down to two positions within the administration, or three positions within the administration. And the distance between the mayor and the council is so small that if the city budget was $1,000, he's willing to veto over 30 cents. And so if that's a choice he wants to make, then I certainly would not describe that as collaboration or compromise. I'd describe that as, as holding the local government hostage. If you don't get absolutely everything you want, I don't call that negotiation. I call that a tantrum.
Okay. Well, Aisha Chughtai, Ward 10 council member and budget chair. I will let you go back to work.
Thank you for having me, John. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. I'm your host, John Edwards. This is the Wedge Live podcast. Thank you all for listening.
This is a real thing. Real thing.
None of you have the balls to stop this. Stop this.
I've got plenty of time. I have nothing else going on today.
We're in the Wedge neighborhood right now.